Welcome in, everybody. We're here for another episode of Inside Boxing Live. You know the usual suspects, Dan Canobio and former world champion Chris Algieri. Chris, how are you, my friend? I am here on Long Island. I just got out of the pool. Took a little extended few days at the parents' house after 4th of July. I'm living that Chris Algieri Florida life. I just got out of the pool. Now I'm doing a podcast. This is great.
No, you're living the Long Island life. People don't understand Long Island summers. There's literally nowhere else in the world I'd rather be. Long Island summers are unbeatable. Pool life, hanging out at the restaurants, cafes, bars, all the people, seeing the family. Nothing beats it.
We only get 15 weekends in the summer. We've always said that growing up, like when I was really into going out in Long Island. It's like we only get 15 of these. We got to use them wisely. But how was your fourth, man? I know you were locked into this hot dog competition.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I ever do on 4th of July is get ready for Nathan's annual 4th of July hot dog celebration. And yesterday was full of drama as it was pushed back a couple hours for lightning delays, which they said was going to be canceled at one point. So I was beside myself for a number of hours yesterday.
Dude, like you're a very good communicator when it comes to text. Like, hey, we're doing the show here, we're doing the show there. Like, and let's talk about this. That's the most text I've ever seen from you talking about this hot dog, Joey Chestnut. You were so locked in. And he did the damn thing. He did 62 down from last year. Still a champ, but he's like Canelo. Like he's showing a little signs of slippage. He's a little vulnerable.
Yeah, he mentioned his age. He mentioned that as being a factor. Also, the last couple of years, like the last 2 years, he had outside influences. One, like this time, they were pushed back 2 hours. The weather was really hot and stormy up north, so like he had to deal with that. Last year, he actually had a torn Achilles while he was doing it.
Did he choke someone out?
He was actually attacked by a vegan protester that he had to choke out in the middle of doing 63 dogs. So I mean, listen, the guy is still the Glizzy gorilla. He still puts him down.
And then the fact him storming out, that picture is going to live in infamy. That's going to be in textbooks years from now. Him storming through in the rain like we are doing this. I love that.
That's movie stuff.
It's America. It's America.
It's very America.
You know, it's also America, Chris. UFC 290. It's coming up this weekend. This is a boxing show. Will be also like Violence in a Cage. New customers, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use code IBL. You bet just $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code IBL on DraftKings for the UFC 290. Gambling problem? You want to call 1-800-GAMBLER in Massachusetts. It's 800-327-5050 or visit the gambling helpline at ma.org. In New York, you're going to call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Tennessee and Kansas, you have a gambling problem there. You want to call 1-800-GAMBLER on behalf of Boot Hill Casino Resort in Kansas. West Virginia, where I went to college. You have a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. All games regulated by the West Virginia Lottery. Please play responsibly in partnership with Hollywood Casino and Charlestown Races. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms, sportsbook.com, DraftKings/MMA terms. It's my workout for the day.
Yikes. Well done. Well done.
Sorry for that.
How's your lung capacity feeling right now?
Not great. I'm actually out of breath. Let's get into the news. Wow, out of nowhere. As I landed last week in Chicago for this NASCAR race, I see Canelo versus Charlo is announced. Nice little signage from Canelo on Instagram. And then a few people are like, wait a second. Did he get the pictures wrong? Because that's Jermell Charlo, not Jermall. And it just stayed on Instagram. And then PBC representative, Showtime representatives like, nope, he's fighting Jermell Charlo. So Canelo Alavarez is fighting Jermell Charlo. Undisputed versus undisputed the first time in the four-belt era. I think this fight is tougher for Canelo than a Jermall fight. I still maintain the toughest fight for Canelo right now is David Benavidez. But this is a curveball, Chris. This is a shocker. We like shockers in boxing. And I honestly think this, if you can get past the whole weight stuff, the 14 pounds in weight difference, this is a fun fight between 2 pound-for-pound top 10 guys in boxing right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's necessarily tougher because you got to look beyond the numbers because Jermall has been so inactive, right? I always mix them up.
No, Jermall's been more inactive than Jermell.
Right. Jermall is the middleweight.
Yes.
Right.
Jermall.
Yes. Yeah.
Big
Jermall has been super
Big
inactive.
Little Mel.
Hasn't fought in over 2 years. But I mean, he's undefeated. He's the bigger guy. Going up to 68 is less of a stretch. 54 to 68, that's a big jump, man. And even though Jermell has been a lot more active, and I actually always liked his style a little better. He had a little less power coming up, but I thought he had a little bit better boxing skills. And he's been active, so that makes him very, very dangerous. And he's an excellent, excellent fighter. But we've seen him struggle with a guy like Castano, where he had to draw. He lost to Tony Harrison, which he avenged. So I mean, there's paths to victory. He's been beaten, and he's been active, but 14 pounds, man. There's weight classes for a reason.
So you're saying the size is a problem?
Size is definitely an issue.
Wow.
Size is definitely an issue.
Did you see the picture of them together though? I know it was from a bunch of years ago. Like Jermell Charlo towers over Canelo. We know this. Canelo's a smaller 168. Charlo's a big 154. It is 14 pounds is 14 pounds. Like that's a lot. This isn't like a jump from 140 to 147 or 112 to 115. That's substantial. It's two weight classes. But the size, like when you see them side by side, that first showdown that they'll have in a few weeks, I bet, the size difference is not going to be. Jermell is going to be bigger than Canelo.
It's not going to be noticeable from the outside with their clothes on. He's going to be bigger in terms of his height, reach, and length, and just being a longer guy. He's going to look bigger like that way. But in terms of like hips, the midsection, Canelo is a very, very thick midsection. He's very, very heavy in his core. Very, very stocky guy. He's got thick. I remember when I sparred him back in however many decades ago that was. I remember looking at his wrist and being like, he's got a big, thick wrist, thick neck. Even though he's shorter than me, I mean, he's 5'8" ish. He's got a shorter reach, but he's a heavy guy. He's a very strong guy, obviously. I don't know, man. It's still a tough fight because
I was gonna say, is there something about this that you can find that you like? Does Jermell Charlo pose a challenge to Canelo? Because I think he does.
Absolutely, and I think a big part of that is going to be the weight and the size. I'm actually going to contradict myself now because Canelo's been fighting at higher weight classes because he likes fighting the bigger guys who are a little bit slower. He's got the speed advantage. He may not have a speed advantage in this fight. He's probably more explosive still, but I mean, just in terms of just overall hand speed, I mean, Jermell has good hand speed. He's got quick hands, good technique. He's not going to be, he's not going to be having a big lumbering slow guy in front of him like a Kovalev. He's got somebody in front of him who's going to be athletic, who's going to be moving, he's going to be flashing the jab. He's got speed. So yeah, this is a very, very interesting fight. And out of the blue, like it really caught me. I'm like, what? That's
got to be the biggest shocker of the last like 20 years. Like usually like Spence Pacquiao came out of nowhere really, but that's like they're in the same weight class. Not crazy. Like Pacquiao signed with PBC and we knew that like they were talking about that fight, but it came out of nowhere. It wasn't like negotiated. This is literally out of complete thin air. Like,
and it's a fight that no one ever really thought about. No one's ever been like, oh yeah, Jermell and Canelo. Like, no, it was always Jermell. Like that made sense. He's the bigger one. Like it just made sense. They're closer in weight. Like this is just what, like same thing you said with Spence and Pacquiao. It's like, no, this fight I could see these guys fighting. Fight makes sense. We have a legend who's still fighting. Is the tail end of his career. We got a guy who's literally going to be the next guy. That fight makes sense. This is just like, I don't know. It's a bizarro world.
It is bizarre. It's definitely, the more I think about it, like it took me a while to get over the weight. It took me a while to get over the shock, but like the more I think about it, I think it's going to be a really good fight. I think Jermell Charlo is taking on a huge challenge right now. Poor Tim Tszyu, but I think if Tim Tszyu was put in this position and he was offered Canelo, he would take it too. So I understand why Jermell is taking it. He has a chance to become undisputed at 168 while being undisputed at 154. I mean, this is like legendary stuff from him. It's a winnable fight for Jermell. I get it, like marketing standpoint, they're gonna hammer you over the head with the whole undisputed versus undisputed top 10 pound for pound. Jermell Charlo, according to some reports, was offered the fight, but ultimately he's going through some very lengthy personal things where it seems like him and his brother just had a conversation and Jermell's like, yeah, take the fight, bro, and like go win it, which is kind of crazy. And that's another storyline in this one. But that's for the actual fight, Chris. Like these guys kind of fight the same. Not exactly the same, but if you look at their volume, Canelo 36 punches a round. It's one of the lowest among championship caliber fighters. Charlo right behind him, 45 punches a round. It's that low volume, high accuracy, game-changing power, especially for Charlo. He stopped like 8 of his last 9 opponents. Canelo not as much, but I don't think this is going to be like a shootout. Like, I think this is going to be a very calculated one punch type of fight. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, I think that's exactly why Team Canelo chose this fight, or chose the Charlos in general, because they're not super busy. He's not busy. And that's why I think that the fight with Benavidez is such a tough fight, and one that I really want to see, because, and why, you know, I've been saying it for a while. I always thought Benavidez was going to beat Canelo, but recently I've been able to see paths that Canelo could win the fight. Still a super hard fight, but guys who are busy are always going to give him trouble, especially now at this stage of his career, where like you said, he really is picking his spots and fighting in spurts. Guys, it's funny. He's only 32, 33, Canelo, but he fights like a much older fighter. And I always talk about fighters when they don't fight a full 3 minutes of every round. Bernal Hopkins didn't fight 3 minutes in his 40s. Shane Mosley stopped fighting every minute, every round. Canelo's already starting to do that. He's already fighting like an aging fighter. It might be because he started so young. It might be because he's had so many fights. Who knows? But yeah, I think one of the reasons that Charlo was chosen, or the Charlos were chosen, is because of that output. And if they go tit for tat, and Canelo is going to be the A side, he's going to be the guy, he's still the face of boxing. You know, if those rounds are close, you're probably going to lean towards Canelo. He is very explosive. The way he throws punches, it's very eye catching. So even in close rounds, a lot of times he squeaks them out because his punches are that obvious.
Yeah, Canelo's going to be the favorite. I think this fight comes down to chins, Chris. Canelo has never been down. But he has been getting touched more lately. You got Charlo's defense is his weakness. He gets hit close to 40% of his opponent's power shots. You brought up the Stanio fight. He was tagged a bunch in that fight. You brought up the Harrison fight. He lost, but he did avenge it. If there's one weakness of Charlo, it's his defense. Canelo's the better defender, so it's going to be a close one. I'll ask you this. Will Canelo get credit for beating Jermell Charlo despite being bigger or fighting at the higher weights for the majority of his career?
Not now. He won't. And I think in the immediate aftermath, he won't. You know, there's a lot of Canelo haters out there. Which I've learned recently. I didn't really catch wind of that until very recently, that a lot of people just do not like him, and they want to discredit everything he's done. So yeah, but I think in hindsight, it's going to be a big deal. You know, you look past the record and say it's going to be another massive name on his roster if he is to win. But yeah, I think immediately after, everyone's just going to go to the weight. Everyone's we wanted the other one, we wanted this fight, we wanted Benavidez.
There's a lot of haters, man. When you're that high, when you're the man, and you can poke holes in everyone's resume, and Canelo was getting so much praise in 2020. It was like over the top. I even said it when I was doing like podcasts back then. I was like, you got to give the guy credit. And it does sound like we're going over the top, but he's literally doing things we haven't seen in years. You know, after that Kovalev win, and then, you know, clearing out 168 in like a calendar year. I do think he'll get some credit, but you're right. The weight is just going to be in people's heads. And if Charlo wins, man, crown the guy. I mean, he's already like battling to be in the top 10 pound for pound. If I made pound for pound list, Jermell Charlo would 100% be in mine, because he's undisputed 154. He's avenged those losses, and he does it in grand fashion. Awesome fight. It's like an imaginary fight. You're using your imagination in this fight. It's like a throwback. I love it. I'm looking forward to it. September 30th, Las Vegas. That's another interesting thing, is the UFC took ownership of Mexican Independence Weekend. They're putting on an all-Mexican card. So Canelo had to pivot because I think, you know, he signed with PBC late, whatever. September 30th, a banger at 168. Let's move on. Did you see this, Chris? Another week, another purse split conversation for us. We're basically negotiators now. Devin Haney offers Shakur Stevenson a 75-25 split. Stevenson comes out and just straight up admits it, says it. Hey, quote, I don't think I'm the A side. I just know my worth, and 25% ain't it. I didn't turn the fight down. That was supposedly the first offer. Haven't heard nothing since. Thoughts?
I get both men. I'm gonna go to bat even for Haney on this one. Yeah, listen, he's undisputed. You know, he's had the bigger fights. I think. Listen, we love Shakur on this show. We've talked about him a lot. We've had him on the show. We speak highly about him. I think he beats everybody, but he hasn't had those marquee fights yet. And even though Haney is undisputed, you know, his biggest wins to date, obviously, you know, he's got the Lomachenko fight, which a lot of people love to argue about, but also he's got the 2 wins over Kambosos, and Kambosos isn't really on that level, but he did travel to Australia and beat the guy twice. Won out of 24 rounds. I probably won 22 of them. But yeah, I get where Haney's coming from. I don't think it's necessarily fair because Shakur deserves more than 25%. But part of me is like, yo, Shakur, just do it and get the win.
Yes. What are you
Go
doing?
out there, take the 25. You're gonna make 75% of the next big one.
Well, here's the thing, bro. Any way you slice this, it doesn't look good for Shakur Stevenson. He very publicly called out Devin Haney. He was in the ring afterwards. There was a photo op of him staring him down. Then they're out of the club. I don't know where they are. And he brings out the bottle service with the girls holding up the sign that says sign the contract. They're both at the same club. He's putting the pressure on Haney. So Haney goes, okay, I'm the man right now. I'm the undisputed champ. 75-20. I don't need to fight you, Shakur Stevenson. I got Loma waiting in a rematch. I got Regis Prograis waiting for me at 140. I got Tank waiting for me at 135. He has the leverage, Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney. So, yeah, I will give you 75-25 to start. Maybe there won't be another offer. But Shakur, man, I'd probably make him the favorite in that fight. It would be close, but I think he would win. I know you think he would win. You got to just take those risks sometimes because 25% in that type of fight is going to be more than you ever made in your career. And it's a winnable fight. Then you become a undisputed champ at 135. You're the shot caller. There'll probably be a rematch clause in it, and because that's just how boxing is these days. But if there is a rematch clause, you're still going to be the lion. You're going to get the lion's share of a Haney rematch. I honestly think he should take it. I'm curious if Shakur turned it down himself or Jay Prince and his team and Top Rank told him not to take it. I mean, kudos to Shakur for coming out and just being straight up about why he didn't take it and being very transparent about it. But he's getting dragged on social media and. Yeah, I honestly think he should have took it. And sometimes you got to take it, kind of like what Haney did. Even though Haney made a lot of money, I talked to someone that was very close to those negotiations. Haney made a ton of money to fight Kambosos. There's that narrative out there that he took less and he sacrificed so much. He made close to 10, 12 million total for the whole thing. But I think Shakur's made a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, this happens to guys in their careers. It happened to me. Listen, I'm not putting myself on the level of Shakur Stevenson. I wasn't a world champion at the time. He's already been a world champion.
Oh, but you've been in negotiations like I haven't. Yeah. You have.
Yeah, a bunch of them. Really, really nasty long ones. And and there were opportunities where I took less money for an opportunity, and there was times where I took a lot more money for opportunities that weren't really great. So that there is times that you can take less to earn more later. And that's just how the sport goes. But I mean, at the end of the day, is this really going to hurt? Is this going to bite Shakur Stevenson really badly in the back? Probably not. The kid's really young. He's got a long career. He's exceptional. He's an exceptional talent. Maybe they feel like, you know what, this is a slap in the face from you guys. I'm going to get there anyway. So yeah, I don't need to work on your timeline. I'm working on my own timeline, which could be that. Ego plays a big role in negotiating as well. So. It could be that. And I think as more time comes out, more information comes out about this, I think we can discern really what's going on. But right now, I think it's a lot of talking heads out there going, well, you should have this, should have that. What is this?
I used to hate these things, but now that we can talk about it, and I have you here as a great resource to talk about negotiations like this. These are two of the biggest names, and they're throwing money out there. People love to talk about money. I understand, like, it's not for everyone. Just show me when the fight is signed. But it is interesting to hear these sides of it. And who knows? The thing was another thing with Stevenson, why I think he should have taken it. Who knows when you'll be offered an undisputed fight again? Like, the belts could disperse. Like, this is something we talked about a lot on the show. Like, not every undisputed champ is created equal. Like, the belts are all in one guy's hand, and it's an easy way, not an easy way, but it's in terms of business wise, it's an easy way to get all four right away.
It's an elevator to get to the top floor.
That's what it's right there. Like their belts Haney's belts can easily disperse. He can go up to 140, and those things go WBA, IBF. They're going all over the place, and then Shakur is fighting for one belt. And then he's got to figure out another plan with another champion and a whole nother promotion for the other one. This is a chance to keep it in-house, in Top Rank, get all the belts, probably win. So I would love to hear from him that if it came down to him or if it was his team. But also if it was a legitimate offer, 75, that's pretty steep. But a lot of times with the mandatory, purse splits, and I'm pretty sure that Shakur is a mandatory for one of Haney's belts. Like, isn't that how they do it anyway? 75-25? Like, listen, I don't really get in the weeds with that stuff, but I've seen stuff on Twitter where 75-25 is almost like the purse split you see for a mandatory.
Yeah, I mean, mine was probably around that when I fought Ruslan. I was, I worked my way up to the ranking and got there, and it is what it is. And mine wasn't even. I wasn't even mine wasn't a mandatory, but still, like, it was an opportunity that was offered to me, and I didn't have any negotiating power to say yes or no. And I took what it was, and I made very little money for that fight, but it made me a lot of money in the next bunch of fights. So
Yep.
That's just part of it. Sometimes you gotta take that chance.
Interesting. Let's move on to our fight previews. We have some great welterweight fights this weekend. I'm jazzed up for these fights, Chris. Welterweight division finally is moving. Let's go for the biggest
besides
one.
the top. Besides the top.
Well, we're getting it the undisputed in the end of the month, and we're going to be there in Las Vegas with Crawford and Spence. And this Saturday over on on Showtime, first episode of All Access. Spence Crawford, which is going to be must-watch fight of this stature. Virgil Ortiz, Manis Stanionis this weekend. Stanionis, plus 295 underdog. I think he's a very live dog. This fight was scratched numerous times for numerous reasons. Stanionis appendectomy, rare blood disease for Virgil Ortiz, which banged this fight in April, but they're getting it on here in July, and I love it because it keeps everyone on the same schedule. Boots Ennis, Stanionis, Ortiz, Crawford, Spence are all fighting. Those are probably the top 5 or 6 guys in the division are all fighting in the same month. I really like Stanionis in this fight, and I put out a tweet yesterday and was getting a lot of pushback or what's your reasoning? I think Stanionis is a very tactical fighter. One of the best jabs in boxing, best underrated jab. That's 8 jabs per round. You know, the leader is Golovkin at 10, even though he's probably retired. But Stanionis is so damn technical, and I'm just worried about Ortiz, the time off. I know that Stanionis has a lot of time off too, but it seems like Ortiz's time off and some of that disease, whatever it is, you would know better than me.
Rhabdomyolysis, yeah.
Bad. But I'm leaning Stanionis right now. I probably will change my mind 3 or 4 times, but Stanionis being so technical, was the great jab and a little more, I wouldn't say battle tested, but I don't know, something about me is Stanionis is really speaking to me this week. But I love this fight.
I'm all in on Ortiz. That's my guy. I love
matchup. I love it.
I love me some Virgil Ortiz. I did a style breakdown for this about a week ago, just watching some of their old fights and seeing what I saw. And Stanionis, that jab that he throws, it's a power jab from an inside position. So he doesn't use the jab to cover distance. He uses the jab as literally almost like a power punch from the inside. He really drills it in when he's within range. His problem is that he walks into range and just kind of wades through traffic. And with a guy like Virgil Ortiz, who does have a little push and pull and has a very good jab and quick hands from the outside, he's very good middle distance. He does close the distance really well with his jab, and then he fires off that. So if Virgil Ortiz can leave his nuts and ego out of this and not stand right in front of this guy, I think he's going to have somewhat of a, not necessarily easy time, because no Stanionis fight is ever going to be easy, but I think he's going to be able to pick Stanionis apart from the middle and long distance. The problem is Virgil likes to fight, and he likes to put his forehead on your forehead, and you hit me, I hit you. Okay, you got me, I'm going to get you next. And that's not going to be the best thing to do in this fight. Stanionis is very, very strong. I think he might actually be the physically stronger guy in the ring, but I just like the combination punch, and I like the gas tank of Virgil Ortiz. I like his technique. He's just better technically. He's got less holes in his defense. His hand position is excellent. His issue is his ego. If he can curb that, I think his technical superiority is going to be the difference. But either way, I think we're going to have a banger, because even if he does curb his ego, it's going to come out at times, and he's going to stand in front of this guy, and they're going to trade. Yeah,
definitely. It's going to be pockets of really great back and forth slugfest. Depends on Stanionis. The guy is routinely undersized. I think he's been the smaller man in like his last 7 straight fights, but he's able to overcome it with that jab. Virgil Ortiz has a really good jab too. You've seen more, fans have seen more of Virgil Ortiz. That's why I'm like heavy with the Stanionis stuff, because I was really watching his past couple fights, really studying the numbers and like what makes this guy great. In the Budiev fight, everyone's bringing up, oh, it was a close fight. Well, it wasn't. He outlanded him in 11 of the 12 rounds. I just think judging was off in that one.
He got hurt to the body in that fight, and that worries me for Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz is a killer body puncher. Yeah,
and Stanionis is not a body puncher. I mean, it's below 20%. No. It's crazy. Like the average is 32% of your landed punches body shots. He's like under 20. Like they just don't.
But he has good. They're good though. When he does throw them, he throws he rips the uppercut to pick your head up, and then he goes down to the liver. I've seen some nice shots of that, but it's not a mainstay of his arsenal. Whereas Virgil Ortiz, man, he is a diligent body puncher.
The only thing with the Ortiz is that I'm giving me any bit of pause here on picking him is the time off. Stanionis, like we said, both guys are looking at year-long layoffs. Actually, Stanionis has been out longer than Ortiz, but it's that rare blood disease. It's that stopping and starting the training. The fact that he does get tagged, weight, the fact that he does get hit, the fact that you said Chris can find himself in a war, even though Ortiz is the heavier puncher of the two. Stanionis is not known for his power shots, but he's so technical.
The two fights that really stand out for me are Stanionis when he fought Delorme, where he had a lot of trouble with the middle distance and boxing ability of Delorme. Delorme was always a good boxer. He had nice long arms for even at 147, and decent power. And he was a good fighter. And then also Ortiz versus Mean Machine, Kavalauskas. I mean, it could be a carbon copy of this fight, honestly, because Mean Machine is a very, very strong guy. He looked to have hurt in Crawford when he fought him right in front. You stand right in front of Kavalauskas. He's a legitimate puncher. And Virgil fought Crawford. Exactly. Virgil fought him.
He went Crawford. That was a knockdown.
Yeah. I called the fight. He's that strong of a guy. And for Virgil to meet him head on and bowl him over the way he did, crazy. I was like, oof, boy, this kid's a problem. So if there's a path to victory, it's those two fights. If you really, for Virgil Ortiz, if you watch those two fights, if he can do that with a guy that strong, and then also Stanionis because that much trouble with someone who is a similar body type to Ortiz, he's kind of long, kind of strong. He's got that good technique from the outside. He fights well at the middle distance. I mean, that's how I saw it from a technical standpoint with those two.
So Algeria likes Ortiz. I like Stanionis. The reason I'm picking Stanionis too or I'm leaning him is the value. Plus 295 underdog. It's a very good value.
For a live dog, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And I would not be shocked if Stanionis wins. Do I think Virgil Ortiz is going to win? Yeah, probably. But I'm going to roll with an underdog and try to make some quiche this weekend. Jaron Ennis, Roman Villa is how we'll end the show. Roman Villa had that win over Rashidi Ellis. They were really trying, PBC and Showtime were really trying to make Jaron Ennis versus Rashidi Ellis. And then in comes Villa with a decent upset, taking out Rashidi Speedy Ellis. And now it's Villa versus Ennis. Only the third fight for Boots since 2021, which is just infuriating. But hopefully we get him going and we can get him in some bigger fights. Ennis minus 1,400 favorite. That just tells you what Vegas thinks of Ennis and what Vegas thinks of Villa. I honestly think Boots is going to walk through this guy. I'm seeing people tell me on Twitter like, oh, no, this is going to be this is going to show us where Boots is. No. Like the over-under is 6.5. I'm tempted to take the under. I think Ennis is going to bowl through Villa because Villa is very aggressive. The only way Villa wins this fight is by being aggressive. And if you're going to be aggressive, Jaron Ennis is going to find you and he's going to knock you down. He's just too strong.
Well, Ellis had a lot of success early on he was just too fast. Too slick, and he just kind of ran out of steam. And Villa is one of those guys he just plugs along. Last strong,
second knockdown durable. In that fight.
Yeah,
like a buzzer beater.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a good fight. A very, very close fight. He pulled it out at the very end. But yeah, I tend to agree with you. I just think Jaron hits too hard, man. You can't be that tough guy with him. And Villa hasn't shown me anything in the way that he's fought with any kind of slickness to not be able to take, those shots head on. And if he takes those big shots from Ennis, it's going to be an early night.
Yeah, Ennis all the way for me. It's a great Showtime card. There's some good fights on there. Also, just a great fight weekend in general because Diego Pacheco is fighting on DAZN. Luis Neary is in action. We're really starting to heat up. July is a banger of the month. Last week we saw Jared Anderson. Your thoughts quickly on that before we wrap this one up. Anderson, I didn't watch the fight. I was in Chicago, but I caught the highlights. I'm seeing exposed thrown around. I'm seeing hype job thrown around. I'm seeing fraud thrown around. Give me a break. The guy won 9-10 rounds against Charles Martin, who is a sturdy guy that's been around the block. And he knocked him down, Anderson. Like, give me a break with this overexposed stuff. Like, can a prospect get 10 rounds, what you need, and be able to move on with his career without being slandered?
Dude, I literally before the fight was saying I didn't like this fight for Jared Anderson. I'm really bullish on Anderson. That's a big step up very early on in your young heavyweight career. He's 23 years old. Charles Martin's a former world champion with power and a southpaw. Very, very dangerous guy. And I thought I was like, this might be a bridge too far. I like Anderson. I know I really believe that he could be the next generation heavyweight. But I'm like, this is one of those fights where it's like, man, this is a big jump. And I think, listen, he got clipped with some shots. I think he showed a lot of things in the fight that we're going to need from him in the future. But he's going to be if he's really going to be the top of the division, which I truly believe he will be. I think his athleticism is next level for that kind of size. Even in the things he was doing in this fight, man, he's a dangerous counterpuncher. He gets in the mix. He's not afraid to get hit. He got clipped, got hit a few times, got touched, felt a little shot here and there. But I mean, I've seen him get hit in fights before. It always worried me because he got hit clean. And now he's got a guy who's a real puncher, world-class puncher in Charles Martin. He got hit. Listen, good. He got his 10 rounds in. I'm happy about it. Right. I'm happy about it.
I just that's what if Twitter was around in like the 80s and 90s when you develop heavyweights, like that's why I saw the Bruce Tramplers of the world and Lou DiBella just fuming over the fact that these guys Anderson was getting dragged because you need these fights. I mean, I still do believe, I will say this, I do believe Jalolov, the big freaking 6'10" guy out of Uzbekistan or wherever he's from.
Is that eyebrows? The guy with the pointed eyebrows? He's very
Lou has him. He just signed with Top Rank. He won the Olympics a bunch of times. I still think he's probably the best young heavyweight. But Anderson is the best American heavyweight. That's for sure. Should be a great weekend. Should be a great weekend of fights. July is going to be awesome. July 15th, I think Frank Martin and some other really good ones. Alicia Baumgartner. And then 22nd, I don't know what's going on 22nd, but then Vegas, we'll be there giving a lot. We'll have a ton of content. That's it, Chris. I'm going to go back into the pool. Work on my tan. Enjoy Florida. Everyone enjoy the fights this weekend. Keep your hands up at all times. Protect yourselves at all times. Stay out of those DMs. I'm looking at you.